Hello, hello. It's time for another edition of Mantra Monday, and it is Monday, November 1st already. Can you believe it? My God, we're just, flying towards December, and it's going to be the end of the year before we know it. I hope that you had a happy Halloween, a happy Samhain. This is a very, very spiritually charged time of the year. So shout out to Ireland and Scotland, all those countries, the northern countries who have been celebrating or observing Samhain for untold centuries. This is the time where it is said that the veil between the quote living and the quote dead, or in other words, those personalities that have passed over to the spirit world or the ethereal world. I mean, basically that means those who don't have a flesh and blood body anymore, and that are just inhabiting, the subtle body, have improved communications, I guess you could say, at this time of year. This is a good time of year. They say the veil is thin. Today is also the first day of the Días de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. And if you live near Mexico, then you've already seen probably lots of marigolds, or maybe Días de los Muertos masks and skeletons. Anywhere in the Southwest, you see a lot of that. And I'm fortunate that something really cool happens around here, is that there is a lady in the farmer's market that actually sells marigold garlands that you can hang over your doorway, or you can use to decorate the altar. She also makes these beautiful marigold crowns that you can wear. And of course, she always has a wonderful crop of just marigolds. So this is also, again, a time where people who are missing their loved ones and wanting to feel close to their loved ones visit with them in the place of their burial with candles, and they bring foodstuffs and just spend the evening in the cemetery, or bringing pictures. Perhaps they have pictures at home, on their homemade altar, and light candles and make offerings. So this is a theme that you find actually throughout the world. In India, there's something known as pinda. So after your loved one's over, you're actually supposed to offer them prasadam. We're actually supposed to offer them sanctified vegetarian foodstuffs that have been offered to Krishna, because it helps them burn up any karma that they may have, any sinful reactions that they may have, that they may be playing out, or what am I trying to say? Sort of facing justice, I guess, on the other side. So this happens as well. Let me see. There is also the month of Kartik. So we are now in the month of Kartik. The month of Kartik actually began last week. And the month of Kartik is the time where Vaishnavas worship the Lord in his form of Damodar. That is his form as a kind of a toddler, a mischievous toddler. I told the story last week of how he was angry at Mother Yasoda because she wasn't paying attention to him. Well, she was trying to cook, and she was cooking some very volatile things on the stove. She was cooking, milk and milk sweets, and spilled over, and she had to put him down from feeding him. He became angry. He got into the storehouse where the butter and the yogurt was kept with his brother and the monkeys. busted that open, started distributing it, and of course, this is a very naughty thing to do. But in the process of that whole pastime, playing as a child, eventually Mother Yasoda got to look into the mouth of Damodar, and within it she saw all the universes. And of course, she also saw herself looking into the mouth of Damodar. So again, this whole theme of, universality and connection is very much present in the fall. Also, this week on November 4th, we are going into Diwali. So Diwali is the festival of lights. That is the commemoration of the burning of Lanka. Remember the great demon Ravan, he who makes others cry. So he got his comeuppance. He got his comeuppance for stealing Mother Sita Devi from Ramachandra. And that is a whole great epic story and saga and pastime and Leela that can be found in the Ramayana. The Ramayana, which is still performed to this day in Indonesia and India, not only in India, but also Indonesia. So Indonesia is like, it's half Hindu and it's half Muslim. So that's another thing that's coming up. And then also another really wonderful auspicious festival that's coming up, which is actually delicious, is the festival of Govardhan Puja. So this is a festival which I've talked about before, and it deals with let's see how loud I am here. I'm not sure. Okay, there we go. So Govardhan Puja is a festival that commemorates Krishna actually philosophically speaking to his father Nanda Maharaj, who was the king of Vrindavan, and telling him, hey, you need to stop making all these offerings to Lord Indra, and you need to make them to me. And then of course there was a great deluge of Vrindavan. Indra sent all these Yamantaka clouds and all these different things to drown the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So anyway, this is a wonderful pastime and reminder of how we should just take shelter of the Supreme Absolute. And also, of course, there's eating involved. So Krishna asked to commemorate this festival every year that there be a parikram. Parikram is when you circumambulate. You'll see pilgrims circumambulate different holy sites. People walk, like for example, people walk to Mecca, or people will walk to Lourdes in southern France. So in India, there are many sites where people walk to, pilgrims walk to, and then will circumambulate, barefoot. And this is a way to purify oneself, to advance spiritually. And then also, as part of this festival, lots and lots and lots and lots of sweets are brought to Govardhan Hill. So if you happen to go to a Bhakti temple, to a Vaishnava temple on this festival that's coming up of Govardhan Puja, they will build like a huge mound of sweets that has halava, kheer, sweet rice, ladus, cookies, all kinds of things. The devotees will circumambulate that. And then at the end, the priests and the Brahmins who have been, basically conducting the festival, they will distribute it to everyone present, and I can tell you that it is absolutely delicious. It's one of my favorite festivals of the year. So that is what's going on. I just wanted to, lift your spirits and tell you about all these things because, it's been a hard time, and festival season is something that we look forward to as human beings, right? Every year, to get us through, and especially to get us through uh, the darker times. But this is also, a time of harvest as well. Okay, so all that being said, you will notice, excuse me, you will notice that in your description, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, I've already put it in the Sanskrit and the word for word synonym, the translation, and also the purport as we continue on with the characteristics of King Puranjana. King Puranjana, who represents the soul, who represents us, who represents the living entity, embodied Dehini, Dehino, in whatever particular body you happen to have, flesh and blood body, even etheric body, right? Even more subtle bodies like the demigods or the angels. As long as we are in this material paradigm, we are traveling on the wheel of samsara, on the wheel of birth and death. So, I think for this day, this is a really, really fitting theme. So we're up to text 37 today. I hope you have something warm to drink. Okay. Oh, let me go to chat and see if anyone's here. If anyone's here, you can make a comment in the comment section. Oh, also, if anyone wants to support this channel, you can make a donation. Let me see if I got this straight. I think that this works. I haven't done this in a while. I think that works. You can go to paypalme.com/Akayani. And then also, I also have Mantra Monday mugs as well. Okay, so let's get into it. Imām tvam adhitis purīm nava-mukhīm vibho mayopanītān kāma-bhogān śatam samāh. Let's see how I pronounce that. Imām tvam adhitis imām tvam adhitis purīm nava-mukhīm vibho purīm nava-mukhīm vibho mayopanītān ānah kāma-bhogān śatam samāh kāma-bhogān śatam samāh imām tvam adhitis purīm nava-mukhīm vibho mayopanītān kāma-bhogān śatam samāh. Word for word translation or synonyms. Imām, this. Tvam, your good self. Adhitis, just remain. Purīm, in the city. Nava-mukhīm, with 9 gates. Vibho, O my Lord. Mayā, by me. Upanītān, excuse me. Must have had too many Kit Kat bars last night. Nava-mukhīm with 9 gates. Vibho, oh my lord, mayā by me. Upanītān arranged. Grinanaha taking. Kāma-bhogān the materials for sense gratification. Śatam 100. Samāh years. Translation. My dear Lord, I have just arranged the city of 9 gates for you so that you can have all kinds of sense gratification. You may live here for 100 years, and everything for your sense gratification will be supplied. I'm going to read that again. My dear Lord, I have just arranged the city of 9 gates for you so that you can have all kinds of sense gratification. You may live here for 100 years, and everything for your sense gratification will be supplied. So when we go back to the previous week, just to put this in context and give us a refresher, text 36, this beautiful girl is addressing King Puranjana. She represents the intelligence. So he's asked her a few questions. Who are you? Are you married? Whose daughter are you? How did you get here? And she is responding, and she's been very honest, and she's saying, I actually don't know how I got here. I only know that the mind and the 10 senses are my friends, and that you have a great desire to satisfy your senses. And so my friends and I will try and satisfy your desires for sense gratification in all respects. And she's going on and kind of, emphasizing that she's arranged the city of 9 gates just to fulfill that purpose, so he can have all kinds of sense gratification, and saying you can live here for 100 years. Okay, so there's already a time limit, and everything for your sense gratification will be supplied. Okay, so this is our situation. Most of us don't live to be 100 in Kali Yuga because we have so many stresses, right? So many health problems, so many financial problems, so many problems. But actually, we should pray to have at least 100 years of life, of healthy life, so we can go through this whole cycle of life and actually solidify our understanding, our spiritual understanding, by not doing any shortcuts. So the purport by Srila Prabhupada, he says, Dharmārtha-kāma-moks dārāh samprāpti-hetavah. The wife is the cause of all kinds of success in religion, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately salvation. When one accepts a wife, it is to be understood that he is being helped in his progressive march towards liberation. Okay, so shout out to all the wives out there who actually are really like the goddess of fortune in a marriage. A wife, a partner, a female, helps the husband in so many ways, a lot of times in ways that he doesn't even appreciate. So here specifically, it's saying she is the cause of all kinds of success in religion, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately salvation. When one accepts a wife, it is to be understood that he is being helped in his progressive march towards liberation. In the beginning of life, a person is trained as a brahmacārī. A brahmacārī is a celibate student, and is then allowed to marry a suitable girl and become a householder, right? Allowed to become a married man who has already learned how to control his senses. That is key. Responsible. If one is thoroughly trained in household life, he finds all kinds of facilities for human life: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Everything is there if it is executed according to regulative principles. And then Prabhupada stops there. He doesn't elaborate anymore in this particular verse. So this verse again, Dharmārtha-kāma-moks dārāh. So Dharmārtha, religion, this is a kind of a crude translation, actually. Dharma actually means one's occupational duties, right? That means not only your duties in terms of going to work and what you're supposed to be doing there according to your psychophysical nature, it also pertains to your responsibilities to society. And it also can pertain to Sanatan Dharma, the eternal activities of the soul. But as householders, let's face it, we have so many responsibilities that we are trying to fulfill in terms of paying our bills, taking care of the home or the apartment that we are living in. We have responsibilities towards our children. We have responsibilities towards our spouse. We have our other family members, our extended family members that we have to deal with. We have the community that we're living in, the neighborhood that we're living in. We have, the school, the church groups, all these different things that we have responsibilities towards. And in Vedic society or a wisdom-based society, there are definitely definitely dues, to give in charity, right? To give in charity to the saints or the sages or the wise people that come calling, that are merciful and knock on our door and try and help enlighten us and lighten our load, as we may be feeling overwhelmed in our daily householder responsibilities. Also, the ceremonies that we may have for the child, right, to get them going on the right foot in life. These are different samskaras that are there. Let me see. The duties that a husband has towards the wife, the responsibilities and obligations that the wife has towards the husband, just so things can run smoothly. Okay, so those are some examples. Kāma, of course, sex life, that's a big part of married life. I mean, that's why people get married. People get married because they have some kind of a physical attraction, towards each other, right? But also that is there, hopefully, to protect each partner. So the idea is that you're satisfied with your partner, right? There's so many songs about that. Keep me satisfied, baby, and all this and that. That make my dreams come true, that you're satisfied with your partner, and that way you don't stray outside of the relationship, and then, all sorts of dramas can ensue because of that. So hopefully, you're satisfied in that relationship. It's a good match, and you are being fulfilled in that relationship. And this just kind of cuts down on a lot of drama in life, right? Because there's always scandals around this kind of activity, and of course profoundly hurt feelings on the part of both people, and then if there's children involved, and it can get very, very complicated to say the least. But also, because there's that sex life there that now has manifested in the form of children, for example, or maybe your children or pets, now you have a need for money. You have a need for economic development, right? So a man will work very hard, or a woman will work very hard to maintain all of these different things, really, for out of affection, right? If someone is feeling affectionate, then it makes it much easier for you to go and do battle out there in the world, to try and make a living. Maybe you're holding down 2 jobs, maybe you're holding down 3 jobs to try and make ends meet. But what's the impetus for doing that? The impetus for doing that is that you come home at night and you find people that are happy to see you, right? So we all need that that love and support. Opposite of that, what is that song by George Michael? Everything She Wants. So in that scenario, his character, his personality is saying, what the hell am I doing this for? You know, I mean, I'm just working and working and working and working for you. I'm just like a cash cow for you. You don't actually give me any shelter at all. And now you're telling me that you're going to have my baby? Oh my God, I'm trapped. I'm trapped for life, right? I feel that way. He's feeling very trapped in that song. Or what's that other song by Tears for Fears? Pale Shelter. You don't give me love. You give me pale shelter. You don't give me love. You know, all that. So there you go. We can understand through a comparison and contrast. So this, this need, for sense gratification is there in the conditioned living soul. We have certain, basic needs that need to be fulfilled. Until we get to that point where we are completely liberated, moksha, right? We need this type of help. We should not pretend that we are on a platform that we are not on. We need to be honest. It's really, really important. There's a tendency to do a lot of showboating in spiritual life in all circles. You see it in, Christian circles, right? And then you find out the pastor was having an affair with so-and-so, or, he was dipping into the funds, and the funds that were being sent to him to be used for this cause, he was actually using for, vacations or what have you not, right? So, hopefully a partnership, you're able to keep each other on the straight and narrow and to be able to keep these things in check. Very important. Then he talks here about in the beginning of a life, a person is trained as a brahmacārī, and then he is allowed to marry a suitable girl. So brahmacārī, I just want to talk about that a little bit. This is in the Vedic system. The young student would be sent to the place of the guru, would be sent to the place of the ashram. And, you would learn, how to read and write and, all those different types of things. But you would also learn how to inquire spiritually, in exchange for this service, like, for example, gathering firewood and bringing it back. It's because it was a very, very simple life. Then the teacher, right, the guru would begin to instruct the children on the difference between matter and spirit, right? What's the difference between those two things? So they have a foundation. So they have a spiritual foundation, a practical foundation in their life, so they can make a distinction between who they really are and the material elements around them. This is really, really important. So then they're not being just pulled hither and thither, by their senses. Like, I was thinking about this last night, I was thinking about someone like Srila Prabhupada, who as a child, he was actually born in a family of Vaishnavas. His dad, Gaur Mohan Dey, was an extremely pious man. And Prabhupada, could observe whenever there were saintly persons that would come to the house, how his father would receive them nicely, give them a nice sitting place, give them something nice to drink, and feed them nicely, and then listen to what they had to say, and also, inquire. So as a child, he absorbed this, and also his father would take him to see Govindaji in the temple. And as a child, he asked for a Ratha Yatra cart, and he employed the help of his mother. I'm trying to remember the name of his mother. Her first name. Anyway, his wonderful mother who helped him, make like samosas and make these little different things. Because when you take the Rath cart, through the streets, if you go to Jagannath Puri, or if you go to any place in the United States when we observe this Ratha Yatra festival, there's also a distribution of foodstuffs. They'll like maybe throw sanctified ladus or samosas or these different things to the crowds, below. And then usually there's a big feast that's distributed to everyone. So he already had this idea, of blessing others in this way. Very different than kids being encouraged just to gratify their senses with like bags of candy and stuff their face and this kind of competition. I mean, I had a great time. I had a great time last night with my grandsons at the Halloween carnival. Don't get me wrong, but I couldn't help but think what Prithu Prabhu said one time, that there's a big difference between chasing after chocolates as a child and organizing a Ratha Yatra as a child. That in play, that right there shows the difference of the the goal, just the way, the mentality, and how someone is being trained from a very, very young age. So there you have it. So, training children, not that you want them to be miserable, of course not, absolutely not. Actually, in some ways in India, they indulge children a lot. But you also want to make sure that they're learning. What does it say? You want to learn nescience and light side by side, side by side. So you have a balanced individual who has an idea of who they really are and can go out in the world and navigate and live a balanced life, without becoming an extremist, one to the other. So you have a peaceful society. That being said, again, there is an acknowledgement and a place for renunciation and sense control within every ashram. Then again here, as it says, after a person is trained to become a brahmacārī, then they're permitted to marry, right? They're considered to be responsible enough and trained enough that they can actually take that on. I was thinking about this also, how this reflects in different cultures, right? Like, for example, I know in Australia, the Aborigines, they would have their walkabouts, right? The young men would go out and do a walkabout. Was it for a year? I mean, it was at least for several months where they would really have to go out on their own and survive. And so if they came back, right, then they were able to pull their own weight within the community, within the society, within the clan that they were in. This is really important. You also see this in Africa. Like, I was thinking about Nelson Mandela, and when he was a child, they still had these customs going on where they would go, they would separate the young boys and they would go through a kind of a training. And then when they would get to another stage, when they were ready to consider to be young men, which is already at the age of like 12 and 13, right? You're already considered a young man in many other cultures. Then there was kind of more training and, kind of an initiation that they would go through. So by the time they were, 15 years old, they already had a sense of responsibility and they already had a sense of belonging, which is what we don't have a lot of here, do we? We don't really have that. A lot of people feel really, really lost. especially young men. Well, the young women too, but the young men definitely feel really lost. It's hard to move forward in life if you feel lost. Or of course, Native American people. Anyway, all kinds of people usually would have these trainings and these rites of passage. So when you become a householder, then you actually understand what goes into eating, right? You know how to put food on the table, sleeping. Well, everyone needs sleep. Mating, right? You have a partner, you have someone that you can engage in sex life with according to religious principles, right? According to Dharma. And also, you know how to hold your own, right? You know how to defend. I'm trying to think. I think it might be in the fourth canto, but there's a whole, kind of a description of householder life and kind of, what it takes to be a householder. So, like for example, one of those things is, this is just coming to mind, that there are instances in which you can actually become or use self-defense. For example, like if someone tries to kidnap your wife, or there's a whole list of things that go on, that were an issue. Now, wife kidnapping isn't really so much a thing these days, but let's just say, in times of yore, it was a thing. If you read the Mahabharata, there's a whole section in there when Draupadi, is it Draupadi? Yeah, it's Draupadi. She's going to have a Svayamvara. She's a princess. She's considered qualified, meaning, she's been trained, and she kind of knows herself, and she knows what to look for in a partner. Okay. But because she's a Kshatriya princess, and Kshatriyas being what they are, there is a competition that goes on. And like, for example, having to shoot an arrow in the eye of a fish that's suspended on the ceiling, but having to do that, but by looking down into a barrel full of water, which of course is rippling, right? This type of thing. And so these events are very boisterous because all the princes are coming in and they're like, me, I'm all that. So there's this competition, right? There's a lot of testosterone. There's competition going on. I'm just going to be mine. I'm going to get her. I'm going to get her. I'm going to get her. But then there's a real competition. So sometimes at the outcome of this competition, people aren't happy with the outcome. So while the declared winner, and the girl may have garlanded the suitor, that she wants, sometimes on the way out, this is kind of another part of it. Oh, it's kind of crazy, while the bridegroom, right, the betrothed now is riding out with his fiance, with his bride on the chariot on the way home. Those who aren't satisfied will give chase and will try and take him out and really kidnap her. And so there's a whole fight going on. Okay, not really such an issue, but it's kind of a fun story to tell, in this Kshatriya culture. So there you have it. I'm just going to, I think, end there because we don't have anyone hanging out today. Everyone's probably way partied out from all the adult parties and all the kids' parties and costuming that went on over the weekend. Okay, so she says, again, my dear Lord, I have just arranged a city of 9 gates for you so that you can have all kinds of sense gratification. You may live here for 100 years, and everything for your sense gratification will be supplied. So, excuse me, I didn't really address that. But again, if we take care of our health, and which a yogi should do, moderation, then it's possible to live to be 100 years old, or possibly even more. So a great example is my grandfather, Fernando Lapallo. My grandfather lived to be 114 years old, and he had pretty much all his faculties up until the day he died. His short-term memory wasn't great at that point. But hey, that being said, he was still bathing himself and taking a shower and anointing his body with olive oil and fixing his breakfast and making a superfood smoothie and socializing and reading and doing all his routines literally up until the day he died. So if you take care of yourself, you can. And we want that time. We want that time because we need time as human beings to become self-realized. And again, it's not something that can be done for most of us overnight. It's a process. So I am going to bless you and leave you with that. And I thank you for being with me today. And I wish you a great rest of your week. Oh, and then also, hey, I guess I should say, as um, as we continue the gift giving season, I am going to put a link in here for you to get a free CD. So you can get a free CD of my best mantra and chill music. All you do is pay for the cost of the shipping. Yes, shipping prices have gone up a little bit, but you can send me a payment through using a credit card here. If it's secure payment, it's encrypted. If that is not working for you, I've had a lot of people ask me about Venmo. Just DM me and I will send you my Venmo address. I package everything myself, and I always try and put a little extra treat in there. So that's it for today. Namaste. Bye bye now.